Hello everyone, I'm Ali. Welcome to the Spatial Skills channel. Here, we're going to learn professional GIS together. Today, we'll explore another toolbox in ArcGIS, so stay with me. The buffer tool is one of the most commonly used tools in the Analysis Tools toolbox. Its job is to create a buffer zone around vector layers such as points, lines, or polygons. This buffer zone can be used for various spatial analysis. For example, imagine you have a layer of schools locations and you want to know which area are within 500 meters of these schools. Using the buffer tool, you can create a 500-meter buffer zone around each school and then analyze these zones. Now let's see how to use this tool. First, open ArcMap and add your desired layer. In this example, we have one layer, school layer. This layer acts as the input features, meaning it's the layer around which we want to create a buffer zone. This layer contains the locations of schools as points. After adding the layer, from the Geoprocessing menu, select ArcToolbox. In the ArcToolbox window, navigate to Analysis Tools, Proximity, and double-click on Buffer. In the buffer window, you will see several main and optional parameters that need to be configured. These parameters include input features. This is a mandatory parameter and specifies the layer around which you want to create a buffer zone. In this example, we select the school layer as the input features. Output feature class. This is a mandatory parameter and specifies the path to save the output layer. For example, you can name the output layer school_buffer. Distance. This is a mandatory parameter and it specifies the buffer distance. This section includes two options: linear units. If you want the buffer distance to be the same for all features, select this option and enter the desired value and unit. For example, if you want to create a 500-meter buffer zone, enter 500 and set the unit to meters. Fill. If you want the buffer distance to vary for each feature, for example, each school, you can use this option. For example, if your school layers attribute table has a field name buffer distance that specifies different distances for each school, you can select this field. This way, each school will have its own buffer zone based on the value in this field. Site type optional. This option specifies on which side of the feature the buffer zone will be created. The options are full. The buffer zone is created on all sides, default. Left. The buffer zone is created only on the left side of the feature, useful for line layers. Right. The buffer zone is created only on the right side of the feature, useful for line layers. Outside. The buffer zone is created only outside the feature, useful for polygon layers. End type optional. This option is only applicable to line layers and specifies how the ends of the lines are processed. The options are round. The ends of the lines are processed as round, default. Flat. The ends of the lines are processed as flat. Method optional. This option specifies the method used to create the buffer zone. The options are Planar. Uses planar methods to calculate distance. This method is suitable for projected coordinate systems, for example, UTM. In the projected coordinate systems, the Earth is treated as a flat surface, and calculations are based on this assumption. This method is best for local projects, for example, a city or province, where the study area is small and the Earth's curvature has a little impact. For example, if you are working on a city and using the UTM coordinate system, this method is suitable. Geodesic uses geodesic methods to calculate distance. This method is suitable for geographic coordinate systems, for example, WGS-84, and takes the Earth's curvature into account. This method is best for large projects, for example, a country or continent, where the study area is vast and the Earth's curvature has a significant impact. For example, if you are creating buffer zones around airports in a large country and using the WGS-84 coordinate system, this method is suitable. Dissolve type, optional. This option specifies whether the buffer zones should be dissolved or not. The options are none. Each buffer zone remains separate. Default. All buffer zones are merged into a single zone. Least. Buffer zones are merged based on one or more specific fields. Dissolve fields. Optional. This option is only available when dissolve type is set to least. In this case, you can select one or more fields to dissolve the buffer zones based on them. For example, if you select the city field, the buffer zones of schools in each city will be merged separately. Suppose the city field includes two cities, A and B, and you have 5 schools. 3 schools in city A, 2 schools in city B. If you select the city field after running the buffer tool, the buffer zones will be as follows. City A. The buffer zones of the 3 schools in this city will be merged into a single buffer zone. City B. The buffer zones of the 2 schools in this city will be merged into a single buffer zone. This way, you will have 2 separate buffer zones, one for city A and another for city B. After configuring all the parameters, click OK to run the tool and generate the output layer. After running the tool, a new layer will be created containing the buffer zones around the input layer. This new layer, which I've named School Buffer, acts as the output layer and can be used for spatial analysis. For example, you can combine this layer with other layers, such as demographic or traffic layers, to perform more advanced analysis. It's that simple. Now you know how to use the buffer tool in the ArcMap. If you remember, in the previous video, we talked about the clip tool and learned how to cut layers based on a specific boundary. Combining these two tools can be very powerful. For example, imagine you have a layer of hospital locations and you want to know which roads are within 1 kilometer of these hospitals. In this case, you first use the buffer tool to create a 1 kilometer buffer zone around the hospitals. Then you use the clip tool to cut the roads layer based on these buffer zones. This way, only the roads within 1 kilometer of the hospitals will remain. If you haven't watched the first video from the Arc Toolbox Analysis Tools ArcMap Tutorial Series playlist yet, make sure to check it out to learn about the clip tool and see how you can use these two tools together. The link to the first video is in the description and also in the card above. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to follow more videos from Spatial Skills to learn GIS like a pro. Thanks for watching.